Okay, I guess the purpose of this video is to try to show you how simple and quickly you can get this project finished. What I've got is the list of words that we need for our visual word ladder. We did this in a class. As you can see, it all goes through steps of changing the words from toad to frog. The idea was that if you could find a more interesting way to show this, like linking words together as they go down, that could get you a better mark, or it could make the visuals even more interesting. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you quickly how to get all this done. First step is to go to Safari. I'm going to go to my Pinterest account because I asked you to put your pictures onto Pinterest. Now I'll go here, create a board. I'm simply going to call it AS Visual Word Ladder. Okay, some pins to help the process with the development of the visual word ladder project. Okay, what kind of board? Let's call it educational for the time being. That's it for now. To create the board, empty. Nothing to do, so what we're going to do is I'm going to start off by doing what's known as a simple search. Put in toad, see what comes up. Now what you have to do is, like I said before, is to distinguish between a toad and a frog. Okay, you notice here it actually says it's a frog, so why the hell it came up with the frog under toad, I don't know. Anyway, that's a toad. For some strange American frog, it's got frog written there, it says American toad, but what you do is you just pin it to there. Okay, don't worry about the things, and you've got one image already in your folder. Keep looking for different images of toads. You need more than one. Once you've done it once as well, it'll come back to that every time you look for it. Okay, that's another one. It's a bit annoying having that every time. Okay, there's a toad playing a piano. As I said, what you do when you're doing creative thinking or this basic mood board generation is not to worry too much about what the pictures are saying at the moment. Okay, what you're doing is you're just collecting visual images that you find interesting. Okay, that's quite a nice one, you see, visually. May not have anything to do with the final outcome, but never mind. Okay, so there's another one. You can tell what a toad is simply because it has this warty skin all over it, and like that one there has a strange rough texture to its skin, so that's what you call a toad. Okay, very different from a frog, even though they're inside the same gene category. There you go. Now what you could do as well, I've got maybe 6 images there of toads. What you could do is look at the next word down, toad road, and before you start looking at just road, see if there's any kind of way of connecting toad and road. You may accidentally come up with some really horrible pictures of squashed toads maybe, but think, there's a film called Toad Road. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to save that. Strange connection there. Be careful when you're looking down here, because as I said, you may find something you may not want to look at. See, that's produced quite a lot of stuff that's not even related to the animal, and it's very hard then to find something with a toad and a road. There's somebody saving a tortoise from a road, which is something I do quite regular. There you go. There's an interesting thing. It's a toad on a little baby motorbike. Now why is that interesting? Because obviously it's nothing literally to do with road, but you drive a bike down a road, so there is a slight connection. And as I told you before, that's what this is all about, finding connections. Thing about doing research as well is some way you have to be aware of how tiring and boring it can be. Basically, you could be looking for a long long time for intricate and interesting pictures that you may want to add. For instance, this has got nothing to do with the toad again, but it's actually a safety sign saying keep careful for 1.5 miles because there may be frogs on the road. Some people do care about animals, and that's what that's for. So you could actually see the link there. Okay, so we're going to put that onto the board. And what we'll do later is to review this to see if it has any value. Another one. This is a toad crossing a road. You can just see the basic aspects of a road. Okay, and what we're going to do is add that. Go back down. We're going to keep looking until we've basically exhausted all the different aspects of what. See, stupid, that's a frog, so I can't really use that, but there you go. Strangely funny aspect of a frog on a road. So, because, there you go, there's another interesting way of looking at it. Some of these pictures are a little bit small and they may not even fit the 100 by 100 that you need, but we're going to save them anyway. Okay, so if I just go quickly back to my main thing, you'll notice I've got a board down here which doesn't have anything in it. I just saved all those pictures to that board. Hang on a sec. There you go. You have to refresh things sometimes. So I've collected all the the toad ones. Now what I want to do is do some searching for road. Now roads are a little bit more open-minded, so what you've got to do here is to think creatively. Okay. Something you can do if you want to do it is, for instance, look at expressions. A road less travelled is an expression. You notice it actually does it as a main search. Alright, now there's lots of things you can think about on that level. This is quite a nice picture. Remoteness, okay, and so forth. Some of this is just going to be visualizations rather than clever aspects. There's an interesting look at road. You see somebody's creatively manipulated. It's quite a famous artist who does this for a living. He just does photo manipulations, but it's quite an interesting way of looking at a road. Okay, in a visual way. Now I'm not going to spend too much time putting lots of different pictures on. There's a good way of looking at a road. I love elephants. Okay, so I'm going to put this up. But I'm not going to find too many images of roads like the frog one. I started off just by giving you an idea about how prolific your search should be. Now here you see we've got road read. Now there is an expression, for instance, reading the road. So you could lead that on to the next part of the picture. Now again, I don't want any pictures with words on them, by the way, so you have to be very careful of that. You'll notice there's lots of pictures of books, which is what we don't want. Okay, so we're not basically finding, there's an interesting idea. You see, when you read, you look at words and they're made up of letters, and that's a kind of a very simplistic visualization of a letter and as a road. So I'm going to save that. I'm not saying I'm going to use it, I'm just going to save it. Okay, keep looking down. You may find something, so you have to be very careful and cautious about how you do this, because you may find something you want to use further down the list. Okay, you don't just pick the first ones on the thing. Most research is very tiring because you have to spend so much time looking. I'm trying to do this very quickly. See, I'm not actually really producing anything to do with reading the road, so I'm just going to put road, and let's put book after it as well, see what that kind of brings up. This is a book called On the Road. What I'm trying, in my head I've got a picture of what I want to look for, which is like basically a book lying on a road, but whether I find a picture of one, that is another question. Again, we're not finding too much the way I want it, so what I'm going to do is go back to I'm going to go back to just road on its own, road. And I'm just going to find a couple. Oh, there's an interesting one. Look at that. Fantastic. You can always tell which ones are the interesting ones because they have thousands of repins. So it's got 2,700 repins, that has. See? That's quite nice. As I said, if you're using a tablet, it's a lot easier to do this pinning because it's just automatically just a push down on a finger aspect. Whereas this, you have to keep opening and closing different windows all the time, which is a bit annoying, but there you go. So I'm going to call that a day for the road one. Now we're going to go to read. Again, you want to try and avoid anything with words on them. We don't want words on the pictures unless it's actually an integral part of the actual picture. Now read is an activity, it's a verb as well, so it's going to be maybe a little bit harder to find images of the process of reading. That's an interesting one. It's been up twice. I just found it again there. I'm just going to put it up just for the sake of it. Like so. So what you can do, instead of putting the word read, and actually there's two ways of spelling the word read, so you could try and be clever. You could put book and then reed, which is the actual type of plant. See if that comes up with anything. It's going to come up with somebody called Crystal Reed. We don't like that. This is the big problem with searching on search engines and things like Pinterest. The popularity produces a bigger result at the top of the actual search results, so you don't really want to think about looking at the top, as I said, because it tends to end up giving you the popular things, which indicates things that you don't necessarily need, which is things like this lady, etc., etc. So that's not going to produce anything, so I'm going to get rid of read and just keep book. What we could do there is to see if we can find any pictures of books that may be of use. Again, trying to avoid anything with words on them. Let me see, these are interesting. Sculptures made out of books. Again, like I said, it may not be a case of actually using it, but it's just something to store. And you could use these. There you go, bookstore. Fantastic photograph of an old bookstore. When you're doing this as well, keep in mind you have to do this 100 by 100, so if you do think about you wanting to use these, try to find an aspect ratio that has the picture at the square shape instead of any other kind of shape, which is going to not be useful for you later on. Great film. Good book as well, I suppose. Okay. I'm doing this very quickly. What I want you to do is obviously think carefully about interesting idea for a chair. How you can possibly find later on other books that relate to, or search engine, results that suit and sit into your needs. Okay, because what you're going to do is turn some of this into the next stage. Okay, I'm going to move on and get some for each of the categories we want, so I can then go on to the next stage of showing you how to present it. Rear. Now rear can be read lots of different ways, like there is a famous film called Rear Window, which is why it's at the top, which is a good film to watch. Rear is also, which is quite clever because it's actually shown here, is what animals do when they actually do what this horse is doing, which is called rearing up. Okay, I'm going to just save that as a kind of a interesting angle on the word rear. Okay, you see there's lots of pictures of horses rearing. Okay, that's quite a pretty one. Also think graphically when you're looking for pictures, because you are basically artists, so you do need to think about the way that they do look visually. Now there is another use for the word rear. You see rear windows coming up a lot, and horses rearing. But what we try, oh, there you go. Unfortunately, it's a disgusting picture, but this is actually known as the bottom is also called a rear. Now, unfortunately, if you do a major search for, let's try it, and put bottom, you probably will get lots of really horrible pictures of female backsides. Now, the thing is, you can use some of these if they're artistic. Unfortunately, a lot of these are pretty, what could you say, semi-pornographic. Okay, so what you have to do is try to think about how to use this in a kind of a creative way and look for an image which may suit your purposes. You may not want to put a picture of a lady's bottom on your output, so it could take longer to find something. Oh, there you go. See, for instance, here's a picture of a animal rear. So you could actually do that. I don't know what it is. What is this? Is it a dog? And also I noticed as well there's a nice carving of a horse on a... This is a funny thing about it. See, that's quite nice the way they've got the hair going into the thing. So I'm going to pin that. So it's interesting to understand, even though we're looking primarily for bottoms and rear, you get other outcomes. Yeah, like there's a plant there. Yeah, what's that got to do with ladies' bottoms? Yeah, now rear of a car. Yeah, all this kind of stuff. So you can. Oh, there you go. Cute little sheep's bottoms. Okay. So think openly when you're doing searches and look at ways of actually finding solutions to the problem. We're going to go on to the next one quickly because I'm tired of looking at women's bottoms. Okay, fear. Now, you may have remembered that the actual term fear came from a starting point, which is phobia. Again, you're probably going to get lots of word-based ones for this. What we could do is go down further, see if we can go find some visual ones. There's a visual one, but you could crop it, you see, because you need 100 by 100. You could crop that. Okay, you could also look for specific fears. Okay, like agoraphobia, gynophobia, fear of spiders. So for instance, let's look up fear of spiders. See if that produces any kind of results that we could use. Stupid. Okay. Now, there's a visually interesting one. So it's two old cars which have been completely covered in cobwebs, you see, so that's quite nice. So it works on the level of what we need, if you can then find the connection, you see. Like so. Now, as I said, I don't really Stupid people. This is a kind of an interesting way that most people have a fear, because they tend to find spiders in unknown places. Okay, that's a spider's nest in somebody's house. There you go. Interesting way of looking at it. I don't know whether is that real or is it actually. It probably is a real one. Some people have strange tastes of putting spiders in their mouths, but whether that's an actual fear, you see, because she's actually enjoying that. Okay, let's see if we can find another one that may suit. Oh, there you go. Too many. That's a dead bird. That's probably a bird-eating spider. Where's it gone? Lost it. Oh, there you go. It's another big long one. That's a bird-eating spider. That's why it's over a chicken. Duck, even. Chicken duck. I don't know. But it's part of a long set of pictures. So, but the thing is, what I could do, for instance, is say, okay, this is a fear of spiders. Or let's put phobia. I'm going to do a quick phobia search. See if we can get some interesting pictures. There's that same picture that's just popped up. Doubt we have fear of whales. That's an interesting one. Okay, and let's just find one more for fear. That's so cool. I've got to pin that because that just makes me laugh. It actually shows fear in the face, but why would anybody have a fear of a budgerigar? I don't know. Anyway, so that's that one. Next one is feet. Now, again, the thing about search engines and the way they use words is they may come up with results for something that's not exactly what you want, which is probably foot, feet, things like that. But I don't know how you could probably find visuals of feet. That's an amazing piece of artwork. That's from probably Aboriginal Australians. Okay. Now what you have to do is think of what a feet is, and it's an amazing challenge. Okay. So what you could do is add that to the word by putting challenge, and you may get some visuals that may be more useful for you. And again, not necessarily. Okay, so what I'm going to do again, is get rid of the word feet. As I said, think of synonyms. Let's put in incredible challenge. See if that comes up with something. Again, it's pretty hard to find something. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a possible way of doing something different. Now, because I spend some time looking at things on the internet, there's an interesting thing. That's a basic one. Yeah, to me that's quite a feat. Yeah, can't even bend over to tie my shoelaces. Okay, so we're going to pin that. But I'll show you another way of possibly doing it. And that's, as I said, because I look over the internet quite a lot. I'm going to put in extreme selfies. And there's been quite a lot of pictures. Oh, these beautiful places there. Of people taking pictures of themselves on really high buildings. Or this one, for instance. There's one you could possibly use, jumping out of a hot air balloon with a parachute, obviously. And you notice it's quite a nice shape as well. So I'm going to get that sorted, and there's one of the selfies I saw there further down. So click on that. That's too small. See if we can find another one. Oh, is that bigger? Okay, that's bigger. You see, they're idiots, aren't they? But anyway, he's took a picture of himself on top of this building. Amazing feat. Okay, so we're going to go down to the next word, which is flat. I want you to spend more time doing this, but I'm just showing you how quickly you could do it if you rushed. Okay, flat is kind of an interesting word in one sense, because it means lots of different things. It gives you lots of different possibilities as well. This just proves that women use Pinterest a lot to actually search for clothing on the internet. Yeah, flat shoes. Okay, what can you say? Now, flat is a place where you live, an apartment as Americans will call it. It also means something that's horizontal and straight. Okay, that's just terrible, because most things here are just going to become flat shoes. So what we're going to do is use the horizontal flat. So that comes with something. This is interesting because the sea is flat. Okay, it's relatively flat. So I'm going to save that because it looks like a nice picture. Again, when you're looking for pictures, you've got to think of something that's maybe I'm going to think is really cool, not what you think is cool, because you've got to try to please the client, haven't you? Remember that? Okay. So, how the hell's that flat? I don't know. Anyway. So, again, you see that is quite a nice cut into the notion of an actual flat. Yeah, because it gives the impression it's a room, but it's very vague and minimalistic, so you could interpret it as such. And so I'm going to place it on there like that to show you that this is how you should do your searching. You should do a little bit more open-minded and kind of different angles on looking at the word flat. Now, this has given me an idea. There is somewhere in America called the Death Valley, and it's got the salt plains as well. So I'm going to do another search. And the reason I say that is because they're basically very flat. Salt Lake. Doesn't do my... For some reason. There's a place called Salt Lake, which is a bit annoying. Okay. Trying to find... No, so I'm going to quickly, because I'm trying to do this with a time aspect. Puts Death Valley. There you go, that's a nice picture. This is Death Valley, it's very flat, you see. This is where they tend to do a lot of the speed records and things, because it's so flat that it's not going to cause any problems with the car going at a certain rate of knots. So I'm not going to look for any more, because as I said, I'm running out of time. I want to do this quick as possible. So do that. We're going to move on to the next one, which is flag. Again, try to think about how you can look at... It's very annoying. For some reason it's slowing down. I see, square. That's interesting way of looking at flag. I think it's slow because I've got Photoshop open up at the moment as well. It does take up a lot of RAM. So I like that quite a lot, so maybe I won't look for any other ones to represent that. But saying that, I'll just quickly look down there. Also, whilst I'm looking quickly down, I'll say that flag also means to flag something, which means to mark it for attention. So you may want to look up that kind of aspect. But you can see there are quite a lot of different ways of looking at flags. Most of them American for some strange reason. Okay. And if you wanted to be interesting, going on to the next one, flog, you could actually flog people with a baseball bat, so you could actually tie that in somewhere down the line. Now, flogging may result in giving you some images you might not want to look at, because it is a torture mechanism. Excuse me, I've got a cough. So let's just see what it does. Okay, flog. No, flog, not frog. Flog. It's actually producing words for frog. Flog, I guess what I want. Flog. Shouldn't be this slow. I want flog. So because it's trying to associate itself with frog, God knows why, because it's a completely different thing entirely. Flogging was a punishment they used to do in the olden days. They still do it, especially in Muslim countries. Now you may get something like that because there's this sadomasochistic approach to flogging as well. But there doesn't, and again another one, lots of this is going to turn out to be sadomasochism. Now there's an interesting picture coming up on the right, which is the actual effects of what happens when you're flogging. Yeah, which is basically you get these marks, so you could pin that. Like so. And what I'm going to do is just extend the word flog with an extension, which is flogging, which is actually the process of flogging somebody. And it's probably not going to have frogs then. Probably again not going to have that many pictures of people being flogged, because maybe there's some sensitivity issues on the internet. So again, you got this sadomasochism thing. It's kind of like sadomasochism and frogs. Great. Yeah, doesn't seem to be that many pictures of flogging. We've got one as a kind of result, and because what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pause this, close Photoshop, and then open again. Hang on. Okay, this is what the actual action of flogging is. Okay, so we're going to save that. See if my internet speeds up a little bit because I've closed Photoshop. Now there is a film which has got an amazing flogging sequence in it, which is the what's it called? Passion of Christ. Flogging. See if there's a shot of that. See, there's a little scene from it there, but there's a little bit of it. If you've not seen the film, there's not that many results, you see, but this is Pinterest, you see, so that's someone being flogged. Well, it's supposedly Jesus being flogged. So anyway, I'm going to save that. This is actually speeding up a little bit. So I'm just going to quickly show you. You don't necessarily need to find everything on Pinterest, but this is what you need to do, is save it. So let's do flogging, Passion of Christ, images. Now here you want to try to find big images. Okay, there you go, that's an interesting one there. It's big enough for what we need, but it's not showing very well, so what I can do is, yeah, it's not very big. It's a big problem. So what you can do, I'll go on to the next thing with the flogging, because I've already got one picture of flogging, so I'll go back to Pinterest and we'll put in frog. It could be because I'm recording this video that's slowing it all down as well. So I'm just going to try and find an interesting picture of a frog quickly. Looks a lot more like a toad. Now I'm going to just so that's an interesting one that's been around the internet quite a bit. Okay. So what we need to do, actually, that's pretty well. Alright. So I'm just going to pick that quickly just to do the activity of a frog. This one, because it's square. But don't try to be too literal. I'm just doing this to show you the basic process of actually collecting things. You need to do a little bit more extensive search. So you'll notice now, if I go to here, this is my collection of pins that I've got. Okay. Now the next stage is a little bit more interactive with the program. I'll pause that when it's open. Here is Photoshop open. Now what you want to do, you can do this digitally, so I'm going to do it digitally for you. I'm going to make an A3 board. Make sure it's 300 dpi. Okay. Board, and what we're going to do quickly is just change it so it's on the horizontal. Like so. Okay, and I don't want a white, and I'm not going to choose black because it's a bit hard, so I'm going to just do like a deep grey because I prefer that. Paint the background that colour. Okay, you can do lots of different things with it if you want to, but I'm just going to keep it like that for the time being. Now what you need to do is find the halfway point of this board, so what I'm going to do quickly is just show you a quick method of finding the halfway, which is literally just going from one corner to another. Helps if you have a there are other ways of doing this, but I'm just doing this to show you. If you do that and that, you'll just basically find that that's the halfway on both axes. Okay, and I can just delete that now. We've got some guides there to show you. Okay, now what we want to do is, as I said before, is to make a nice presentation. So I'm going to bring this down temporarily. You can move these guides, so don't worry too much. And it's got to be a little bit higher at the bottom than the top. And let's say, for instance, we'll use that as the maximum shape on the width. So basically all our pictures have got to sit into this area. So what we can do is go back to here. I'm going to choose the well, I've only got one frog one, so I can only use that one. So what I can do now is just literally grab that and drag it into Photoshop, and it will open up. Now what we need to do is go to the crop tool, just put it as 100 by, oops, once again technology fails me, 100 by 100. Now I don't want to get these little brown, these bordering things. I'm just going to crop it so it has the borders cut off. Press return twice and it then cuts it into the shape that we want. Select all, copy. I'm going to paste it onto the board. Now you'll notice it's gone a lot smaller than it needs to, because if you remember, what it's doing is it's possibly being 100 by 100 at 72 dpi. Now let's just check this. If I go to Alt Command I, you'll notice it's 100 by 100 at 72 dpi. Now if I change that to the same as the actual board that we had, which was 300, you'll notice it basically cuts it down to a bigger width size. Okay, like so. But for a digital presentation, that's relatively okay. Okay, so this is another reason why you have to be kind of careful when you're actually preparing all this stuff, because you'll notice it's gone a little bit kind of icky on the way it looks. But I'll just show you how it works when you print it. You see it's a lot bigger now, okay, than it was. Now that's probably even smaller than it should be. Now if you remember, let's just open that picture again. Let's just put that back in. The brief says not 100 by 100 pixels, okay, but millimeters. So what we've got to do is change this to a different method. I'm just going to crop it so I get rid of those things again. Like so. Now you'll probably find that this is not even close to being 100. Oops, I cropped it with pixels, which is what we don't want. Just delete those. Put that to so it's cropped. Now if we do that again, you'll notice it's, if we go to millimeters, it needs to be 100 by 100, and you'll notice also it has this ability to, it's just off, isn't it? Doesn't matter, it's close enough. Okay, this one. So what you need to do is get rid of that and then resample it at this 300, which is going to still keep it at 100 by 100 millimeters. Okay, it's not keeping everything linked. Okay, so if you do that, that's the right size that you need it to be. Select all, copy, paste. Okay, paste it and move it onto your board. Now you notice you're not going to get all these fitted on, so what we're going to do, because this is digital, will allow you to basically readjust these. But what I'm going to do first is get all the pictures on. Go to the next one we had. I prefer this one. It's more interesting as far as flogging goes. Okay, you notice it's not the right dimension. Now to keep it square, you have to keep an eye on the values it has on the top there. So that's a square thing, so what you can now do is move it so it's into the right frame. Do this again. So it's got to be 100 by 100 and 300, like so. Okay, you notice it just forms the picture, but I'm just, as I said, putting these up really quickly to just show you how to set the boards up. Okay, I'm going backwards here, you notice as well, because it's flog. Okay, but you can go which order you want to. Close that. Now, I've got to do this quickly because, as I said, I've got to basically use one. I'm going to use that one because it kind of moves on to the process of what I told you before, which is to go on about flogging. Now you notice it only has one value there, so what you've got to do is see that it's got to be 540 on this level, and then you've got to try and compose it so you've got enough of the picture to represent what you want. Okay, so we've got to then do the value of 100, tab 100, 300. Okay, now 300 may not be the right value. Let's just try and show you something. 150 is good enough for print. Okay, so that does it to that level. Copy. You see it's smaller now. And you may find that you could possibly get 5 of those along. Okay, but I'm going to just delete that, so I'm going to show you the options we have. Copy, paste it. Oops, I didn't put it back to 300. Okay, what I'm going to do is go back again. Like so, go to this, change it to 300, which makes it bigger. Copy, close, paste it in with the other ones. Okay, close that. Flog, what's after flog? Flag, feet, no, flat. I quite like this one for flat, didn't I? I don't know which one to go for though. I'm going to go for this one because it's more ambiguous as far as flat goes. Okay, so I'm going to crop it. 426. These are pixels, by the way. And we need to make sure that we get roughly the right size. I'm going to have a little bit of the sky in there because it makes it. Also have that on the halfway line, which will make it look more dramatic as far as composition goes. 300. Select all, copy, paste. Again, I can't move it. Still on crop. Okay. Now you see that's gone out of frame, but it is actually still there. I'll just prove it because if I move it, there you go. So what I'm going to do is put the frog over there because I'm going to need another one here in a minute. Okay, the next one was feet, wasn't it? And I quite like this one for feet. Okay, so I'm going to grab that, drag it in. Okay, that's square, so I don't need to worry about cropping it. So I'm going to put 100 by 100 by 300. I would suggest you choose 150. Copy, close. Okay, move it to there. Now I've got 5 on the bottom row, and we need ones on the top row next. Okay, but before that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you if I select all those. There is an option to create this spacing automatically. You notice these have appeared because I've selected all the layers. This one here, you notice they move slightly. I'll just go undo again. This one basically spreads them out automatically with that space being distribution equal to each other picture. Okay, I'm going to stop talking a little bit now and just get the other ones up. Now, I quite like that one for fear. Is that one the next one? Feet, fear, yeah. So I'm going to open these in different windows just to select them. Fear, rear. I'm going to use that one because I thought it was really cool. Okay, read. Okay. I like that one. I think it's a really nice picture. Okay. Road. No. I quite like that one. And we've got Toad. Now, just for the sake of this, I'm going to bring in the actual aspect that I've told you about, which is try and connect the... that's a very creative thinking way of looking at things. Okay. Now I've got to see if we can crop it so we can see some of the road and the sign. Okay. Now the way you can do this automatically, you see it's already got the thing going, so what you can do is, if you wanted to, is to keep your hand down on shift, and that then creates the cropping as a square. And luckily I can get quite a little bit of the road on there, so I'm going to use that. Okay, and I'm going to, you'll notice it's the right size. Oops. Make sure you press tab. 300. Okay. Select all, copy, close, don't save. Back here, now that's got to go above this one, like so. Did I do fear? I did do fear, didn't I? I want to, oh no, I'm going to get rid of the fear one. I want that butchery goal one. I loved it. Okay, so let's get all the pictures in. So I can close that window, put the book one in. Rear. I didn't do fear, did I? Did I do fear? Yeah, that's fear, isn't it? I quite like that because it's quite interesting and abstract. But I really loved. No, I'm going to keep that one. I like the kid with the budgerigar on his head. So anyway, so what's next on the list? Road. So find the, close that. We don't need the browser open anymore. That's the road. So again, we're going to crop it to be square. Luckily, we can get enough of the road on. And go. Oh, that's nearly 100 anyway. 300. Just don't worry about that. I'm just doing this that size to show you how to present things. It should automatically snap to a few of the grid lines, because it does it quite nicely for some reason. Okay, so we're going to go to the next one, which is read. Okay, lovely bookshop. Did that wrong. Got to crop it. Don't crop. So you got to be careful. You have the shift down, because else it won't. So this is where good composition comes in, I think. You can just crop enough of the sign off so you get more of the actual shot below in. Oops, needs to go to, oops, 300. As I said, keep yours at 150. I hate it where you have to keep jumping between these. Next one was read rear. Okay, that's the rear one. Shift down. We need the sheep, obviously, to get rid of the copyright thing. Oops, it's going to be 100. 100. Now there is an option when you're searching for images on the internet to look for large, which will give you the choice not to have this problem with resampling. Okay, I'm going to select all those, move them all along. This is the last one. Shift down. Okay, now I want to keep that big one in so you can see what this is. So that's necessary to do it that way. So it's 100, 100, 300. project. Select all, copy. Then save, paste in. And I don't need more cropping, so we can then align that to those. You notice it snaps automatically to those, so we don't need to align the other ones. You can't align that because it's just between two and they're all snapped automatically. So the next stage is just to resize these, and if I just select them, all the layers again, and press Command T, you'll notice you'll get this option, which is the resize option. And what we need to do is keep it to that line and that line. Doesn't matter about the top and bottom at the moment. And then we just need to literally put that in the center, or theoretically speaking slightly above the center. Now you notice my two side ones haven't been aligned properly because this is the center point of this, and that's not obviously then in the center. So what we've got to do is to resize that so it goes in the center. Now those spaces there are exactly the same now, because we know, because we've actually stretch that. Now that's slightly off center according to that, like I said. Now what we can do is just get rid of the, we don't want to, you can't hide the rules on this. I think you can just press Command H, that gets rid of the guides for the time being. Okay, now what you can do is with a nice plain font, just type in what we've got here. I prefer Helvetica. Okay, now there is a Helvetica called Helvetica New, so I'm going to use that one, and I'm just going to put it in capitals, Visual Word Ladder. Now that's condensed for some reason. So what I want to do is just literally quickly check. But yeah, it's been squashed by 72%, so I'm going to put it on 100 again. Okay, that's fine. Now, something you need to be aware of, and it actually did just snap it to that, is there's an invisible vertical there. If I put the, this is your invisible vertical. Okay, there's another vertical which you've chosen. So what we can do is put that there. And it may not seem interesting or clever at this moment in time, but you'll learn to understand this. That makes the composition more acceptable. Okay, now this end we can do lots of different things. We can either make the word fit to that point there, which is the end of one picture, or fit it to the center point of this picture, which is roughly about there. Okay, but you've got to imagine this is A3, so the word there needs to be smaller than it already is. So what I'm going to do is literally bring it down to be the size of the first word, like so, and then we can put this up, tweak the position by using the arrow keys, like so. Okay, I'm just going to grab that and put this down to the bottom here. We don't need to have it on this line because this is just going to be literally our name. It can be in lowercase if you want to, and I'm just going to put the course creative thinking, thinking like so. And I'm going to change the font to make it less visual, and so I'm going to put it into light, which means it does that, so it's not so bold as that one. Okay, and then just make sure that's fit in the end, like so. Also, what I could do is just make it less visual if you're doing it all digitally. Select all is, I don't even need to do that. I can just go to the layer it's on and just make it 50% opaque. Okay, like so. And that, if I just hide this again, is how you should display and prepare your board. Now again, as I said, these could be a little bit more clever because I just did this quickly just to show you how it's done. Okay, but that's what I want to see as a result to your project. Okay.